Chapter 421. Disturbance in the Inn, 2. Honored customer, I am truly sorry but you will have to find a new inn for the night. The roasted beef will be free of charge. We sincerely hope that the honored customer will forgive us. The youth returned the gold coin back to Jian Chen with an apologetic look. Jian Chen looked at the youth for a moment without making any movements to take back his gold coin. Then he turned around to look at the youth from the Yangji sect. Just how much money do you plan to give to this inn? Hearing this, the youths from the Yangji sect all looked at Jian Chen with a cold look. Their eyes began to gleam dangerously to the point where if a timid person were to be the center of their attention, they would have fainted. Kid, who are you? One of the youths spoke out with a dark expression. He had taken Jian Chen's words as an attempted challenge. The other men from the Yangji sect began to glare icily at Jian Chen. They didn't know just where Jian Chen had come from since the entire Qingan kingdom had heard about the Yangji sect. Very few men would not know about the sect whose eyes had spread throughout the entire kingdom. Very few could contend with the Yangji sect, so they were worried that he may belong to one of those groups. Jian Chen let out a small smile. You don't have the qualification to ask for this one's name, nor have you answered my question. How much do you plan on giving this inn? Jian Chen had a slight arrogant tone to his voice as if he hadn't bothered to care about the Yangji sect at all. The youth and the shopkeeper had troubled looks on their faces. Each one knew that there would be no way for the Yangji sect to take this lying down. In the case that a fight were to break out, their shop would be the one taking damage. The youth and shopkeeper initially moved to plead with Jian Chen, but after realizing that Jian Chen was no ordinary person from his aura, they stopped where they stood. As a shopkeeper and waiter, they saw many different people every day, making them able to discern a person by glance alone. In their minds, they knew that Jian Chen was no ordinary person. Therefore, trying to plead with Jian Chen would have been useless unless they wanted trouble. The men from the Yangji sect were all prideful. Each one of them had a powerful group supporting them, so Jian Chen's words stung their pride. Taking out a purple coin, one of the youths spoke out, I've a purple coin to give to the inn. Do you have any problems with that? A single purple coin was worth 100 gold coins. This was practically half a year's worth of pay, meaning a purple coin was a large sum of money for one single purchase. The shopkeeper and the waiter were shocked at the large sum of money. With a mutual look, the both of them were greatly moved. Jian Chen put down the platter he had been eating from. With a single movement he took out several purple coins from his space ring. Then here's 10 purple coins to rent out the inn. You may leave now. Jian Chen wasn't one to show off, but these men in front of him were not pleasant people. He decided to take such unusual actions against them. Seeing the 10 purple coins on the table, the men from the Yangji sect were infuriated. One of them even bursted out in anger. Kid, do you wish to make trouble for our Yangji sect? You must not like living. Wisen up and get the fuck out of here. Even if you have money, that doesn't mean we won't spare your life. If you don't wish to die, then get out. Offending our Yangji sect is something even the prince can't do. The youths began to cry out in anger as they slowly made their way toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen didn't bother to look at them anymore and continued to eat his meal. If you cannot bring out the money, then please leave. I've already reserved the inn, I don't welcome you here. You're taking quite the risk here. One of the youths shouted angrily as he and another person prepared to slam their fists into his head. With a look of disdain, Jian Chen's chopsticks instantly shot toward the two men that came at him with blinding speed. Shwa! Shwa! Two cries of pain could be heard as the two chopsticks skewered through their fists, causing them to be unable to open their fists. The pain was so intense that they couldn't help but gnash their teeth together furiously. Jian Chen's movements shocked the other Yangji sect men who all looked on in fear. You actually dare to attack our Yangji sect? You're tired of living. A youth roared. Jian Chen's eyes flashed dangerously as he waved his hand, causing the two chopsticks to come flying back. In an instant he stabbed them straight through the throats of the one that spoke, killing him instantly. Jian Chen's action stunned the entire group to the point where one person began to stutter. Why you actually killed a member of our Yangji sect? If you wish to live, then get out of the inn. Otherwise, I'll kill you all here. Jian spoke with a tone so icy that even a bucket of ice water would seem hot in comparison. The group couldn't help but feel extremely vexed at Jian's words, but they had no other choice but to leave the inn dejectedly. "Halt! Take this body out with you." Jian spoke as he pointed at the corpse on the ground. With the others unwilling to do it, one reluctant person took the body and left the inn with the group. After the Yangji sect left, the entire inn was a deathly calm silence. The inn's shopkeeper and the waiter only looked at Jian timidly, not knowing what he was planning to do next. Jian threw the chopsticks in his hands and spoke, "Shopkeeper, since I've reserved the inn, these 10 purple coins are yours." Then without waiting for the shopkeeper to respond, Jian took the satisfied tiger cub up to the second floor. The sky was already quite dark now, and while Jian was only in a second-class city, he could hear the sounds of a carriage slowly roll through the streets. In the next moment, several more magical beast mounts could be heard charging toward the inn from every angle. With just one look, anyone could tell that these men were very rich. At that moment, the youths from before came running toward the carriage. They were from the Yangji sect, and on their backs, the corpse of their dead friend could be seen hanging. "Young lord, please help us take revenge. There is a man that dared challenge our Yangji sect's power and undermined it. Furthermore, he has killed our 4th youngest. Young lord, our 4th youngest has been killed. There must be justice for this, otherwise, where would our Yangji sect be able to stand afterward?" As the youths approached the carriage, they began to cry out with furious expressions. "What has happened? Explain the situation to me," a middle-aged man on a magical beast mount asked. Shortly after that, the youths added oil to the fire by exaggerating the story to the man. They spoke of how Jian had completely pushed around the Yangji sect, causing the other men on the mounts to be furious and their eyes filled with killing intent. "Young master, that man is far too brazen. We must definitely teach him a lesson so that he knows the consequences of messing with our Yangji sect." One of the riders spoke. "Definitely, young master. We surely have to give a good lesson to whoever spares no face for our Yangji sect. Does he think our Yangji sect is an easy target to bully? To kill a disciple of our Yangji sect? Why, if news of this were to spread, then our Yangji sect wouldn't have enough face to remain in the Qiangan kingdom." Many guards immediately spoke their disapproval and anger at the situation. Everyone should calm down. If that mysterious youth is truly this strong, then he must be an Earth Saint Master at the very least. In that case, we cannot afford to act rashly. Tomorrow, third uncle will be coming to visit. Wait for him to come and we shall see just how strong this youth is. Then we'll see how justice is served. The middle-aged man spoke calmly. This man clearly held a large amount of power, as his words caused everyone else to stay quiet. A voice could be heard from within the carriage. "Uncle Zhou, your words seem to ring true. That man seemed to have killed one of our own with chopsticks, meaning his strength is quite vast. If we were to try and capture him now, our losses would not even compare to our gains. Let us wait for tomorrow so that third uncle can look for him instead." "Yes, young lord." Every guard spoke in agreement. The second morning, Jian immediately left the inn and continued on toward the Qiangan Kingdom's imperial palace. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper looked at the purple coins given to her after Jian had left. She couldn't even contain her joy at the large sum of wealth in her hands, but before she could even enjoy it for long, a large group of men instantly stormed into the inn. Chapter 422. Havoc in the Imperial Palace. Jian had long since left the inn and flew into the air toward the Qiangan Kingdom's Imperial Palace. He was completely oblivious to the trouble he had brought upon the inn's mother and son. 2 hours later, Jian finally arrived at the Imperial Palace. Slowly descending 500 meters to the ground, his legs planted themselves firmly on the palace halls. The Qiangan Kingdom had been in a glorious era of prosperity. Despite being far from being called one of the 8 great powers, they were still an extremely strong nation with a majestic status and a rich history that spanned 1,000 years. That was several hundred years' difference compared to the Jessan Kingdom. But then calamity had fallen on the Qiangan Kingdom. Just narrowly avoiding annihilation, their powers had weakened and were unable to rise again, becoming nothing more than a silent kingdom. Thus, despite how glorious the imperial palace of the Qiangan kingdom tried to be, it paled in comparison to the Qinhuang kingdom. Though, compared to the neighboring kingdoms, this palace would still be quite impressive. Jianchun continued to fly over the rooms of the palace before finally heading to one of the biggest halls which appeared to be locked. With a wave of his right hand, the fire elements in the world began to gather before transforming into a 20-meter-long sword of fire for Jianchun. Flames flickered away with high temperatures, giving off a bright warm glow as it raised the temperature around it. There's someone in the sky, it must be a heaven saint master. Not good, he's planning to attack the imperial palace, call out the imperial advisors. It's an enemy, bring out the imperial advisors to deal with him quickly. The guards patrolling the imperial palace immediately noticed the bizarreness of the situation and began to cry out in alarm to warn the elite soldiers of the palace. With another wave of his right hand, the fire sword in front of him disappeared in a blink of light before shooting into the giant palace hall. Bang! As the bright red flames exploded out from the palace halls, the iron gates began to melt down to the ground and washed over the floors of the palace. Every nearby soldier immediately started to back away in fear of touching the molten iron. Dunk, 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 dunk. A loud drumming sound could be heard throughout the palace as the strongest of the Qiangan kingdom began to gather toward the area Jianchun was located. The previously quiet palace immediately turned noisy as countless soldiers came flooding out like water. Their movements were swift, but the moment they saw Jianchun floating in midair, they were shocked. A heaven saint master was an entity they could not face. Using the energy of the world, Jianchun began to control the fire element to form a sword once more. Throwing it at the largest palace hall, he was planning on completely destroying the palace. At that moment, a large formidable amount of sword chi came flying out like lightning and struck the flame sword. Dissipating due to the blow, flames began to spread out through the air with sparks covering the palace air like mist. No matter where a person turned, there was only fire. Each area that was touched by a piece of the sword now had a hole a meter deep. A white figure man with his hair tied up came descending down from 500 meters in the air with a furious look. "Sire, just who are you, and why are you trying to destroy the imperial palace?" The elders stared angrily at Jianchun. "I am from the Jessan kingdom with the express purpose of destroying you." Jianchun spoke. The elder had a shocked look on his face as Jianchun's words registered in his mind. "What did you say, you're from the Jessan kingdom?" "Impossible. We know every single expert within the Jessan kingdom, and you're not one of them. Just who are you? Spare us your false words." Jianchun sneered at the elder before turning to the innermost part of the imperial palace. "Qian Yun, come out and accept your death." Jianchun snarled with a boom that resonated throughout the palace, scaring everyone that heard it. Qian Yun was a member of the royal family and was even the senior of the king of the Qiangan kingdom. His identity was so majestic that many people didn't even dare to speak his name. Within the depths of the palace, a white-robed scholarly man could be seen sitting on his bed. His left sleeve draped down uselessly without an arm to wrap around, meaning that the person wearing these robes was missing his left arm. And right in front of him were 3 middle-aged men that stood in a respectful pose, but there was a furious look on their faces. "AI." The elder sitting down on the bedside. He really did come. This is the calamity that follows after a heaven-tier battle skill. If it were not for my greedy heart, none of this would have happened. "Teacher, is that outsider truly a person from the Jessan kingdom? Was it he that cut off your left arm?" One of the middle-aged men spoke with furious eyes. "With 4 kingdoms uniting to fight a single kingdom, he came to our Qiangan kingdom instead of protecting his own kingdom. How preposterous is that? Does he take our Qiangan kingdom to be a kingdom of no one?" "Teacher, this anger of mine cannot be reprieved. It would only be after I dismember his body that I will finally be at peace with myself." All 3 of the men tried to speak out to the elder with justifications to fight the newcomer. With a gentle sigh, the elder replied, "Don't bring up this issue again. That man's strength is far too strong. Even with 4 heaven saint masters from the Pingyang kingdom, we were unable to injure him in the slightest. Not only that, we were severely injured by him." Our Qiangan kingdom is not as strong as it was before. This is an enemy we should not have offended. You three shall stay here while your teacher goes out." Before he finished speaking, the elder transformed into a bright white light and disappeared from the chamber they were in. Impossible! Just how could the teacher and 4 other experts not be able to cause a scratch? Not even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master would be able to have such a strength like this. The words of their teacher stunned the 3 men into utter shock and silence. On the outside, the one-armed Qian Yun stood by the other Heaven Saint Master's side and stared at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's eyes stared coldly at Qian Yun. "Qian Yun, for a moment, I didn't think you'd appear. I did tell you before, you shall bear witness to the destruction of the Qiangan kingdom." The 2 elders looked extremely angry at Jian Chen's words. The elder to the side of Qian Yun had even begun to leak killing intent. "Do you take yourself to be a saint ruler? To say such words, be careful not to lose your tongue." Qian Yun stretched out an arm to block the other elder as if to stop his speech. Turning to Jian Chen, he spoke, "Sire, I've told you before, my actions have nothing to do with the Qiangan kingdom. If there's an issue, then take it up with me and not the others. If my Qiangan kingdom enters this conflict, it will spell trouble for the Jessen kingdom." Sneering, Jian Chen spoke, You say it's unrelated? Your eyes must be blind. Yesterday several Heaven Saint Masters of your kingdom united with the Blue Wind Kingdom to attack the eastern stronghold of the Jessen kingdom. Do you mean to say that they are not from your Qiangan kingdom? There is no way something like this would happen. Qian Yun quibbled. But the elder to his side tugged at Qian Yun's garments with a low whisper. "When your left arm was cut off, His Majesty wanted to avenge you. Joining forces with the other kingdoms, he asked several Heaven Saint Masters to suppress the kingdom." "What? You actually did such a thing?" Qian Yun was aghast. Clearly he had not known about the Qiangan kingdom's actions toward the Jessen kingdom. His face contorted into anger. "Troublesome? How troublesome? Why did you not discuss such a matter with me first?" The elder next to Qian Yun sighed. "Although we had the power to help the Blue Wind Kingdom attack the Jessen kingdom, the end result was that 3 of our Heaven Saint Masters were killed. Furthermore, their bodies weren't brought back and the remaining 2 were heavily injured." Hearing this, Qian Yun looked extremely troubled. This was a tremendous loss for their kingdom. Each Heaven Saint Master was a pillar to the kingdom and directly tied to their power. Now you have nothing to say. Today I shall destroy the imperial palace of your kingdom." Jian Chen sneered as killing intent appeared in his eyes. With a single thought, the energy in the world began to form fire around his body in heavy concentration. In a flash, it transformed into 3 different blades of fire that began to destroy the imperial palace. "Stop!" The 2 Heaven Saint Masters cried out as they shot out their hands. 3 different sword chi blasts flew forward to stop the flame swords. With explosive bangs, the fire swords were ripped apart and set the entire palace alight with a bright glow. "Sire, this is nothing more than a misunderstanding. Our Qiangan kingdom does not wish to interfere with your war. Please stay your hand." Qian Yun spoke. He was well aware of Jian Chen's strength, so to protect the kingdom from falling into disaster, he couldn't help but plead out loud to him. "Wishful thinking." Jian Chen taunted. If the enemy had not been afraid of Jian Chen's strength, they would have chased Jian Chen out of the palace a long time ago. "Since you stuck your nose into something that doesn't concern you, then I will kill you." Jian Chen whispered. The azure and violet origin energy began to grow in his right hand before solidifying into a meter-long sword that shot toward the 2 men. Seeing the azure and violet glow, Qian Yun had a fearful look on his face as he cried out, "Be careful, he has a strange energy aiding him. Do not let his sword clash with yours." Chapter 423, Cave of the Saint Ruler. After hearing Qian Yun's warning, the other elder nodded his head and formed a meter-long machete. With a wave of his hand, the blade came swinging down toward Jian Chen. At the same time, Qian Yun had taken out his sword to attack him as well. Jian Chen waved his own sword, causing the origin energy to come flying out from the blade like a wave toward the 2 men. Brandishing his right hand, the origin energy traveled toward the 2 elders with an azure and violet trail. Heeding Qian Yun's advice, The other Heaven Saint Master made sure he didn't touch the azure and violet origin energy coming at him. Retrieving his weapon, the elder leaped back for a moment before charging at Jian Chen with his machete flying at him in quick succession. Jian Chen's origin energy completely smashed through the projectile sword chi sent by the elder and washed over the area with the remaining energy, ravaging the place with dust. Smoke filled the air and things in the palace were sent flying about due to the energy. All-devouring sword chi. Qian Yun bellowed as his sword began to flash bright with power. In the next moment, a meter-long piece of sword chi came stabbing through the sky before speeding toward Jian Chen. An oppressing amount of pressure could be felt as the sword chi came out, locking Jian Chen into place. This one move from Qian Yun was evidently an earth-tier battle skill. Moving his body to dodge, Jian Chen saw that the all-devouring sword chi had locked onto him. He couldn't shake off the skill, meaning that Jian Chen could only try to destroy it. Jian Chen's eyes flashed once as he began to bend the fire element in the world to his control. 3 swords materialized from the fire and began to bring the temperature of the area to a boiling point. Bush, bush, bush. The 3 blades zoomed through the air toward the all-devouring sword chi battle skill from Qian Yun. Bang! The 2 sides met with a loud explosion and blasted the entire area with the impact. Flames burst out everywhere in a spectacular sight, destroying parts of the palace and killing several nearby soldiers who were too close to the blast. In the chaos of the palace, even the elite trained soldiers could easily lose their lives here. Diving for shelter to hide behind, the soldiers tried their best to survive. Wrapping himself with the wind element, Jian Chen began to charge at Qian Yun with his origin energy sword at the ready. Qian Yun looked at Jian Chen for a moment before turning to look at the extremely damaged palace. Without hesitation, he flew away from the palace to lead Jian Chen away. Jian Chen's eyes flashed with the azure and violet glow once more, with each color appearing in both eyes, giving him a bone-chilling glare to whoever could see it. Suddenly, the pieces of stone began to fly up into the air and shoot straight at Qian Yun with frightening speed. Qian Yun had seen Jian Chen's strength for himself when he was at the Pingyang Kingdom stronghold, so he didn't dare belittle Jian Chen. Saint Force began to rush out of his body to serve as a protective shield to protect himself against the stones. The azure and violet stones chased after Qian Yun with a terrifying amount of power. As they impacted against his Saint Force, the shield shook once before repelling the stones in succession. Jian Chen's origin energy transformed into an azure light that began to surround all of the stones he had shot before. In a flash, they flew back toward Qian Yun and stabbed in between his eyes with the origin energy aiding them. Now that he was surrounded by the stones, Qian Yun had no other choice but to use his saint weapon to try and block Jian Chen's strike. Ding! With a clear crack, Qian Yun's saint weapon received 2 new jagged holes, causing Qian Yun to spit out a mouthful of blood. As soon as his first strike landed, Jian Chen chased after him with a second strike, his origin energy transforming into a stunning ray of light that was aimed between Qian Yun's eyes with deadly precision. Qian Yun's face fell as he realized that he would have to use his saint weapon to defend himself once more to cover his retreat. When the origin energy slammed into Qian Yun's saint weapon, another crack became visible. Following another mouthful of blood, Qian Yun's protective barrier could no longer be sustained and disappeared instantly. As soon as it dropped, the floating stones nearby perforated into his body and stained his body with blood. Qian Yun could only let out a howl of pain before dropping down from the skies. Qian Yun! The other elder cried out in shock before chasing after Qian Yun's body. Jian Chen sneered as his killing intent spiked once more. Pointing his finger, all of the floating stones turned around and flew at the remaining elder. Shouting out loud, the elder burst with Saint Force and used it to repel all of the incoming stones coming at him. Jian Chen's left hand unclenched, materializing a sword made from fire. With a flick of his hand, the intensely hot sword shot toward the elder's barrier in an attempt to destroy it. Bang! After the smoke cleared away, the elder could be seen with blood dripping down from his pale face before falling down to the ground along with Qian Yun. Jian Chen's body flew down after the 2 with his origin energy sword shooting for the 2. His eyes were icily cold with killing intent apparent in them. It was clear to see that Jianchen did not plan on letting the two go. Seeing Jianchen pursue them, the elder with Qian Yun had a desperate look on his face. After this exchange, he finally understood how strong Jianchen was and how futile it was for him to try to defend himself against him. This is the consequence of your Qiangan kingdom meddling in this war. Today your imperial palace will perish and your Qiangan kingdom will fall. Jianchen spoke. Halt! A panicked voice called out as a large group of people came rushing toward them. Judging from their clothes, they were all high-ranking men, and the middle-aged man leading the charge was wearing an eye-catching dragon robe of purple and gold. When the group saw the two heavily injured men, they all turned extremely grave in the face. The man with the dragon robe knelt in front of Qian Yun and asked, "Royal ancestor, are you all right?" Qian Yun lay on the ground powerless with a vacant look toward the sky. "This is all my fault. If I had not coveted Chang Wuji's heaven-tier battle skill so much, then today's events never would have happened." "Royal ancestor, don't say such words. This is the fault of our Qiangan kingdom being weaker than before." The man wearing the dragon robe grew sad before turning to meet Jianchen. "Senior, I know you came here in regards with the Jessen kingdom. I, the king, will proclaim that our Qiangan kingdom will no longer meddle with the Jessen kingdom. So please forgive my ancestor for this slight." There was a cold smirk on Jianchen's face as he spoke. "Your words are of no use. Today I shall flatten your imperial palace and destroy what the Qiangan kingdom stands for." Jianchen's words caused everyone to grow serious. By now, no one doubted that Jianchen's words were serious. After defeating two Heaven Saint Masters, an individual like this would be able to do as he said. There was no one left in this group that could go against an entity that could bend the world's energy to his will like a Heaven Saint Master. Every person gathered here belonged to the higher echelons of the Qiangan kingdom and supported the kingdom with their skills. If they were to all die, then the Qiangan kingdom would truly be killed off in name. Growing troubled, the king of the Qiangan kingdom tried thinking of a solution. With a bright gleam of his eyes, he spoke, "Senior, if you spare my Qiangan kingdom, then I will tell you a secret." At this, Qian Yun instantly knew what the king was speaking about. Panicking, he spoke, "No. You mustn't tell him that. Royal ancestor, if our Qiangan kingdom were to disappear, then what is the point of us safeguarding this secret?" Even the king's face had a helpless look to it. Evidently he too did not wish to tell anyone this secret. Jianchen's eyes flashed curiously. "What secret is that?" "We know of the location of the cave of a saint ruler. Senior, if you promise to spare our Qiangan kingdom and promise to not make any excuse to attack our kingdom again, then I will tell you of its location." The king spoke with an anxious look. Upon hearing of the fact that there was a cave of a saint ruler, Jianchen's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. The killing intent began to recede from his body as he began to calm down. With some hesitation, Jianchen spoke, "If the location of this saint ruler's cave is of some ravaged area, would I not be falling for a trick of yours?" "Absolutely not." The king had a serious look on his face. "The owner of this cave belonged to an imperial protector of our Qiangan kingdom 1,000 years ago. At the end of his lifespan, he died while meditating in the cave. But before he died, he had laid down an array to protect the cave's entrance, meaning that no one has ever been able to enter the cave for 1,000 years. Chapter 424. Kendall? Absolutely not. The king had a serious look on his face. The owner of this cave belonged to an imperial protector of our Qiangan kingdom 1,000 years ago. At the end of his lifespan, he died while meditating in the cave. But before he died, he had laid down an array to protect the cave's entrance, meaning that no one has ever been able to enter the cave for 1,000 years. Jianchen was silent for a moment as his eyes shined brightly, but a look of hesitation still remained on his face. He was deeply intrigued by the words of the king, and if his words were true and there was a cave of a saint ruler, there would definitely be a ruler armament and skeleton within the cave. These two distinct things were filled with the energy of a saint ruler who died in a seated meditation. Every saint ruler at the 9th heavenly layer would leave behind a tremendous amount of energy within their skeleton and would also leave behind their saint weapon. Both of these were priceless treasures within the Tianyuan continent, and even the strongest clans wouldn't have such an item. However, there was a huge barrier, in the words of the Qiangan Kingdom's king, in regards to the cave. With no one being able to enter for 1,000 years, Jianchen couldn't guarantee that it would remain in its pristine state after so long. If there was another expert that had managed to enter and take away the precious goods within it, it would be his loss. Seeing Jianchen's hesitation, the king instantly knew what he was thinking about and grew anxious. Whether he could protect the Qiangan kingdom or not depended on if Jianchen was interested enough in this saint ruler's cave. Senior, the cave of a saint ruler would most definitely contain many precious items that even I am not aware of. I use this secret in exchange for the safety of my kingdom. You are at no disadvantage for this, and this is a secret that only the king of the Qiangan kingdom and the royal ancestor knows. If you kill the both of us, then you will never know the location of the saint ruler's cave. The king spoke anxiously, trying to convince him quickly. Jianchen continued to debate with himself for an even longer amount of time before at last succumbing to his curiosity. Agreeing with the Qiangan kingdom's king, he spoke, "If what you tell me about the cave is true, I will agree to spare your Qiangan kingdom. Senior, you must promise me that you will not make trouble for my Qiangan kingdom in the future. As long as my Qiangan kingdom is safe, I will tell you the location of this cave." The king was no idiot and spoke again to make sure of the safety of his kingdom. He was worried that after Jianchen entered the cave, he would later find some other excuse to attack the Qiangan kingdom. Jianchen naturally understood the king's concerns and nodded without hesitation, "I will agree to your conditions." Hearing this, the king let out a sigh in relief. Although the cave of the saint ruler was top secret, it did not supersede the importance of his kingdom. There was no need to safeguard a secret if it meant his kingdom were to be destroyed. Furthermore, this cave had a strong array formation that prevented anyone from entering. Qian Yun had tried to enter many times before, but to no avail. Thus, this secret was one they could not use or had no need of. If they couldn't use it or collect the treasures within it, it was a useless thing to protect and negligible in comparison to their kingdom. Afterward, Jianchen followed the king into his study and was given a map. "Senior, the location of the cave is located here. There will be an array formation protecting the cave from entry. I entrust this map to you and hope that you will abide by our agreement." Jianchen took the map and looked it over carefully. He realized that instead of the cave being located at the center of the kingdom, it was in fact several 100,000 kilometers southwest in a mountain range. Putting away the map, Jianchen spoke, "I hope that you are not lying to me. If I find out this map is false, I will not forgive this mistake. Please do not worry, Senior. This map is definitely authentic. My royal ancestor has visited this cave many times before but was never able to enter." The king swore. Jianchen wasted no words with him and left the area. He benefited greatly from the Qiangan kingdom. He had no idea that he would be able to obtain such a secret that was the cave of a saint ruler. This was a secret that would make every clan on the continent fight over to obtain. After Jianchen had left, the pale-faced Qian Yun walked into the room with a badly bruised look. There was blood all over his clothes, completely voiding him from his previously scholarly look. The king of the Qiangan kingdom looked at Qian Yun with concern. "Royal ancestor, are you fine?" Qian Yun sat down in a nearby chair and spoke dimly, "AI, this sin of mine has involved the Qiangan kingdom, regrettably. Royal ancestor, please do not say such words. Our Qiangan kingdom did not have enough people to protect it, that's all." The king spoke in consolation. Qian Yun sighed. "Qian Feng, the cave of Keneton has been revealed, meaning we no longer need to safeguard its secrets. The array formation will do its job. Even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master would find it difficult to enter it. We cannot allow this to just be given to the Jessen kingdom. When I am healed, I shall go report this to the clans." "Royal ancestor, would this not anger that expert?" The king spoke in concern. Hearing this, Qian Yun's eyes flashed coldly. "This is a secret we cannot tell those clans foolishly, but I will exchange it for that man's life." After Jianchen left the imperial palace, he began to travel back to the Jessen kingdom. Although he had originally come here with the intent of destroying the palace, Instead, he had profited from this venture for the future. An hour later, a small city could be seen. This was the second-class city Jianchen stayed in last time. Seeing the second-class city, Jianchen couldn't help but think back to the inn he had stayed in and the shop owner. At that time when he first saw the mother and son, he had felt that the two looked quite similar to someone he had seen before. As Jianchen floated overhead, he began to descend down into the city right in front of a crowded street. The originally noisy street instantly became quiet. A Heaven Saint Master appearing on the streets caused a giant tremor of shock throughout, causing everyone to stare at Jianchen. There was surprise and respect reflected in their eyes. Out of the 700 million population of the Qiangan Kingdom, there was only 8 Heaven Saint Masters. Thus, the chances of a Heaven Saint Master coming to this second-class city was extremely rare. It would be lucky if one came every 100 years. So when Jianchen descended down from the skies, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. Jianchen looked around for a moment before wrapping himself up with the wind element and disappearing from the streets in a fast blur of speed. It had only been a little over 2 hours since Jianchen had left the city, so it didn't take long for Jianchen to arrive back at the inn he had stayed at. Walking into the inn, Jianchen was stunned at what he saw. The inn was in disarray with all of the tables and stools broken into splintered pieces with bloodstains everywhere. Sitting at one of the counters, the shop owner of the inn was holding her head between her hands while crying out in grief. On her clothes, several footprints could be seen. Quickly walking forward, Jianchen squatted down to where the shop owner was. "Shopkeeper, what has happened? Who did all of this?" Tilting her head up, the shop owner's puffy red eyes were brimming with tears. Upon recognizing Jianchen, her face registered him with shock and fury before quickly restraining her emotions. Immediately kowtowing her head to him, she pleaded, "My lord, I beg of you, you must help my son. Please help rescue my son." Jianchen helped the shop owner up and spoke, "Shopkeeper, what happened here?" "My lord, this was the work of the Yangji sect. After being bullied last night, the Yangji sect came back earlier today for revenge. As they were smashing up the place, my son tried to stop them but was taken back with them as a result." The shop owner cried out in grief. Hearing this, Jianchen's face grew grim as he realized the folly of his actions. Because of him, the inn had been involved. "My son, my poor child. You cannot let anything happen to you. You are of my flesh and bone. If you die before your mother, then your mother doesn't wish to live any longer. Kendall, wretched Kendall, where did you go? After leaving for so many years, our child has been taken by the Yangji sect. You conscience-lacking Kendall, if you don't return, then don't even bother thinking about your wife and child." The shop owner wailed with helplessness. Upon hearing the name of Kendall, Jianchen immediately froze up as he looked at the shop owner in alarm. "What did you say? Kendall, did you just say Kendall?" Chapter 425. Saving a life. The grieving shop owner did not take note of the abnormality in Jianchen's words and continued to bawl, "My lord, I beg of you, you must save my only son. If anything happens to my child, then I have no desire to live anymore." The shop owner was an ordinary citizen with no strong backing, meaning the Yangji sect had no problems dealing with her. Right now she could only hope that Jianchen would help her. She knew that he did not fear them, meaning he had some sort of power or background. Jianchen grabbed onto the shoulders of the shop owner and stared carefully at the shop owner. "What did you just say, Kendall? Are you talking about Kendall the mercenary? Could you be his family members?" Jianchen's body began to tremble with emotion. The family of Kendall had always been his biggest regret and weighed on his mind heavily. At several points, this regret had ate away at Jianchen's mind. But now that he had finally news on Kendall's family, Jianchen couldn't help but feel overjoyed. Reacting to Jianchen's words at last, the shop owner wiped away her tears and spoke to Jianchen skeptically, "My lord, do you know of my Kendall? He is my husband and father to my sons." Jianchen sucked in a sharp breath of air before trying to calm himself. Closing his eyes slowly, he couldn't help but think back to Uncle Kendall's appearance before slowly bringing his hands up from the shop owner's shoulders. Suddenly, the energy of the world began to rush into the inn before forming a brilliant glow of light around Jianchen's hands. In a moment, The entire inn was filled with this energy. Looking at the magical glow that Jianchen seemed to be doing, the shop owner had never seen such a sight before. She could only stare with wide eyes as Jianchen's act of magic continued to captivate her. Not too long after, the face of a man could be seen in the light. By using his control of the world energy, Jianchen was able to use the energy of the world to recreate a picture of Kendall's face. Jianchen slowly opened his eyes and looked at the shop owner. Just as he was about to speak, the shop owner cried out in shock. "Kendall, that is my Kendall! My lord, have you seen my Kendall?" The shop owner was beside herself with joy. She had not seen Kendall for many years now and was still deeply concerned for him. Upon seeing the shop owner's recognition of Kendall, Jianchen finally confirmed the mother's identity. Trying to stay calm, he spoke to confirm it one more time. "Auntie, please look carefully. Is this truly your husband?" "There's no doubt at all. He is my Kendall." "My lord, have you seen my Kendall? Do you know where he is? Why has he not come home in so many years and callously left his wife and child alone to fight for their own survival?" The shop owner cried out once more with a new wave of tears. Jianchen's attitude toward the shop owner drastically changed now. Hastily holding the shop owner up, he spoke with concern. "Auntie, please sit down first. Are you wounded? Did they do anything to you?" Jianchen's tone became warmer, and when he looked at the footprints on her clothes, Jianchen felt a righteous fury wash over his entire body. Right now, the woman in front of him was the family of Kendall. The family he had bitterly searched for so long. Jianchen would not stand for any wrongs or abuse that happened to them. "My lord, please, have you seen or know where my Kendall is? Why has he not returned home?" The shop owner dearly missed Kendall and continued to ask about his whereabouts. "That is..." Jianchen's face fell as he began to stutter, not knowing what to say. How could he say that Kendall exchanged his life for Jianchen's when the Golden Fur Tiger King had chased them through the magical Beast Mountain range? Or even that Kendall's skeleton could no longer even be found? After a split moment of hesitation, Jianchen immediately changed the topic. "Auntie, we can talk about this later. Let me save your child first." Yes, please save my Sans. He is my only son, he cannot have anything happen to him. My lord, I beg of you, please save him." The mother pleaded once more, deeply hoping that Jianchen would help her. Jianchen's face grew serious as he asked, "Aunt, where did the Yangji sect take Sans?" "I'll bring him back." "The Yangji sect took him somewhere, but I don't know where." The shop owner cried. Thinking for a moment, Jianchen responded, "Then, Auntie, let's find one of the Yangji sect. In such a short amount of time, they shouldn't have left the city." Jianchen quickly took her outside. Seeing how willing Jianchen was to help her, the shop owner was overjoyed. When she realized that Jianchen was just a single person, she couldn't help but feel some doubt. "My lord, the Yangji sect is one of the strongest sects in the Qiangan kingdom. They have many people, so we should get some people to help first." Jianchen smiled. "Auntie, you needn't worry. I will definitely bring Sans back, so come with me." Jianchen pulled at her to follow. "One moment then, I need to lock the inn." The Yangji sect was extremely well known in the Qiangan kingdom. Practically everyone within the kingdom knew of them. By now, it hadn't even been 4 hours since the Yangji sect came, so Jianchen could easily ask the people on the streets for their whereabouts. Quickly taking the shop owner to the temporary residence of the Yangji sect, Jianchen and the mother could only see a large and luxurious inn. "Dear customers, would you like a room for the night or a meal?" As they entered, a waiter of the inn immediately greeted them with a curious look as he saw the footprints on the shop owner's clothes. Seeing how sorry she looked, he didn't know whether to drive her out, since she didn't seem like a guest who could even afford a meal here. Ignoring the waiter, Jianchen spread out his omnipresence to cover the entire inn. In a flash he discovered the location of the people from the Yangji sect and took the shop owner with him. "Honored customers, might I ask how to serve you?" The waiter spoke as he moved alongside the two with a nod of his head. Jianchen tossed a gold coin to the waiter. "There's nothing, go back to your own tasks." The Yangji sect were all residing within their own special courtyard. Jian-Chen walked along a passageway to get to this courtyard before being finally stopped by two middle-aged men at the doors. "Sire, this is the territory of the Yangji sect. Without permission you may not enter." A man said, "Yangji sect, I've been looking for you." Jian-Chen's eyes flashed brightly as the energy of the world gathered in his hands. With the speed of lightning, he slammed his hand against the two men's chests. The two men were Saint Masters in strength, meaning they were ants in the eyes of a heaven Saint Master like Jian-Chen. They simply had no strength and could only be blasted 10 meters back with a trail of blood escaping their mouths. "Auntie, let's go in." Jian-Chen spoke as he walked in. The shop owner quaked with fear as she followed behind Jian-Chen. She looked at Jian-Chen in a new light now. She hadn't thought that this youth, who wasn't much different in age to her son, would be strong enough to send two decently strong men flying without a problem. How audacious! Who dares cause trouble here? Right as Jian-Chen entered the courtyard, a low shout could be heard. 10 uniformed men came charging forward to greet both Jian-Chen and the shop owner. Jian-Chen's eyes swept across the group with a cold smile. However, the woman behind him was not as calm and collected as he was. She couldn't help but look down at the ground with an extremely timid expression as if she couldn't stand looking at them. "Kid, who are you? Why have you come into our Yangji sect's territory?" A middle-aged man spoke with a chilly voice. Jian-Chen's hands folded against his chest, causing the tiger cub to leap onto his shoulder. With a bright look, the cub began to look around the area. "Have your boss come on out." Jian-Chen spoke expressionlessly and with a detached voice. The middle-aged man grew furious. "Impudence! Youngster, who do you think you are to talk to us this way? Do you not see us at all? Arrest him and await the third master's orders." "Yes." The group replied as 20 men brought their saint weapons out, one after another, to charge at Jian-Chen. Snorting, Jian-Chen looked to a nearby tree. 20 leaves from the tree broke away and shot toward the group with blinding speed. At that moment, the previously weak leaves instantly transformed into sharp pieces of steel, spearing the throats of the 20 men. The 20 men from the Yangji sect hadn't even traveled a few steps before falling to the ground dead. Chapter 426. The killing intent skyrockets. Jian-Chen's actions quickly killed the Yangji sect men with quick stabs through each of the 20 men's throats, leaving the rest of the men all stunned. The remaining few men thought themselves fortunate that they did not charge at Jian-Chen, otherwise they would have been the ones laying on the ground instead. Everyone from the Yangji sect was utterly shocked and tried to hide the fear in their eyes. Although Jian-Chen was many years younger than them, the method he had used to kill the 20 men had shocked them. "Sire, just who are you?" The first person spoke. His voice began to treat Jian-Chen with a more respectful voice. "Call out your leader immediately, otherwise I will kill you all." Jian-Chen spoke coldly. "You!" The middle-aged man growled. The Yangji sect were a high symbol of power within the Qiangan kingdom. Even the prince of the kingdom could not easily get away with mocking them. Thus, this cavalier attitude of Jian-Chen toward his Yangji sect was something that infuriated the man, but he didn't dare do anything due to his weakness. "What has happened? Why is there such a commotion?" At that moment, a deep-sounding voice could be heard as a long-haired, black-robed man came walking into the courtyard. The man's face was steadfast and looked to be around 50 years old. In his eyes, a bright glint could be seen. "Third teacher! Third teacher!" Upon seeing this man, every single person bent down in a respectful bow toward him. The third teacher walked up to the group and was immediately informed by the middle-aged man. "Third teacher, you've come just in time. Not only has he caused trouble, but he has killed 20 of our disciples. This is an unforgivable crime." Ignoring what the man had said, the newcomer looked at Jian-Chen for a moment as if studying him. Turning grim, the man had taken notice that despite Jian-Chen looking around 20 years old, he was an extremely unusual person. "Sire, who are you, and why have you crossed paths with my Yangji sect?" The third uncle spoke with a dark expression. "Third teacher, why spare words on this man? He has killed 20 disciples. Just how could we forgive him for this?" The middle-aged man standing beside the third teacher gnashed his teeth in anger as if trying to convince him. The third teacher lifted a hand to calm the man before turning back to wait for Jian Chen's response. Jian Chen's hands remained crossed against his chest and ignored the third teacher. Only the woman standing right behind Jian Chen could be heard quaking in fear, but even she remained quiet. Earlier today, your Yangji sect abducted someone. Bring him out here immediately, otherwise, do not blame me for being unkind. Jian Chen spoke with an icy tone. The third teacher's expression suddenly changed to grow dark as he spoke. Sire, are you aware of the consequences your words may bring you? My Yangji sect is not an entity you can easily provoke. I don't care what sect you belong to. Return the person back to me and kneel down in apology. Otherwise, you and your men will never leave this place alive. Jian Chen spoke. Since they had taken the son of his uncle Kendall, there was no way he would forgive such an action. How brassy! The third teacher roared in anger. You who don't know the immensity of the earth and the heavens. Why don't you show me your potential then? With that, the man materialized a blue machete in his hand and shot toward Jian Chen with lightning-quick speed. Sneering, Jian Chen revealed a cold smile as he pointed a finger at the man. Instantly, an azure and violet-colored sword chi shot from his finger and toward the incoming third teacher. Ding! A cracking sound could be heard as the azure and violet sword chi accurately stabbed into the third teacher's machete. The power within this finger-sized attack was so strong that it caused the third teacher's forward momentum to come to a grinding halt before instantly blowing him back through the air. Somersaulting backward, the man landed on his feet several meters away from his original position. With some difficulty, he stabilized himself, but his facial expression afterward was very troubled as he looked at Jian Chen. His own strength was decent as an Earth Saint Master, but to think that he would have been pushed back by a single shot of sword chi. Then, the third teacher realized something and gasped in shock. You're a Heaven Saint Master. As soon as everyone heard this, they were aghast with shock and their eyes popped wide open with surprise. I will count to 3. If I do not see the person you took, don't think about escaping with your life. Jian Chen spoke coldly without any more patience. Quick, bring that guy out. This time, the third teacher's voice was not as steadfast as before and quickly barked out an order. Even the other men from the Yangji sect didn't have the same bravado as before. Flashing a quick look of terror at Jian Chen, several men instantly scampered to go bring the man Jian Chen was looking for. Quickly, a bloody figure was brought out by the Yangji sect. His hair was messy and his body was filled with wounds from a whip. Even his clothes were on the verge of tearing apart. When the woman standing behind Jian Chen saw the bloody figure, she let out a shriek of horror and charged bravely straight through the men and toward the youth with a great cry, "My Sans! My dear son, how could such a thing happen to you? Ah, my poor child." When the third teacher saw the state the child was in, his face had instantly fallen. He never would have thought that the proprietress of a small-time inn would somehow manage to have a connection to a Heaven Saint Master, and thus he had not spared the whip with their captive. But now that the youth was in such a state, he nervously waited to see if Jian Chen would be angered. The Yangji sect let the youth go, and with fear, they turned to look at Jian Chen before silently walking back. Jian Chen's dark face looked at the state of the youth and squatted down to take a closer look at his wounds. Instantly, a large amount of killing intent exploded from Jian Chen and flooded the entire courtyard. Jian Chen's eyes frosted over as his killing intent skyrocketed. Yangji sect, I, Jian Chen, will destroy every single one of you. Chapter 427. Killing the Yangji sect. Upon hearing Jian Chen's declaration of destroying the Yangji sect, everyone within the sect became furious. Despite everyone fearing Jian Chen's immense strength, the third teacher couldn't help but cry out, "Sire, the Yangji sect has deep roots in the Qiangan kingdom, some even with the royal family. You should think about the words coming out of your mouth before you speak them. I will have you all slain here today." Jian Chen spoke as even more killing intent exploded out from him. All of the nearby trees began to shake and explode before transforming into wood splinters that shone with an azure and violet glow. Traveling through the air, the wood splinters suddenly found themselves shooting straight for the Yangji sect. Out of the entire Yangji sect men gathered here, Only the third teacher was an Earth Saint Master. Everyone else were Great Saint Masters and below, meaning there was absolutely no way for them to defend themselves against a Heaven Saint Master. Without any resistance, each person was instantly riddled with holes. Even the Earth Saint Master found it extremely hard to defend against. The wood splinters found it extremely easy to pierce through his Saint Force defenses and instantly spear through his body in various different places. In an instant, more than a dozen Yangji sect men had died without a problem. Their blood stained the ground below them and had even spread into the air to create the bloody stench of death. My child, ah my poor child. Wake up. Don't scare your mother like this. If you die, then your mother doesn't wish to live either. The woman continued to cry, not even noticing the bloodbath that occurred around her. Jian Chen's killing intent slowly receded from his eyes as he walked toward the shop owner. Auntie, don't worry. He is still alive, he just fainted from his wounds. Jian Chen spoke with some remorse. He had checked his wounds earlier, and while they were not life-threatening, his inner saint weapon had been utterly destroyed. In accordance to the continent, that would mean the youth would never be able to cultivate and would forever remain an ordinary man without strength. Upon hearing Jian Chen's words, the shop owner's eyes lit up as she spoke up in hope. Is that true? My lord, will my child live? Jian Chen nodded his head. Auntie, let us take Sans home. Sans is the child of Kendall. Whatever revenge that is planned, I will take it all and allow the Yangji sect to come to justice. The shop owner was moved by his words and thanked him over and over again. My lord, I thank you truly. My dear benefactor, for as long as this woman lives, I will work as hard as an ox to repay you. Jian Chen immediately stopped the woman there and spoke. Auntie, do not say such words. Uncle Kendall has treated me with such kindness in the past. It is only right that I help you. Let us take Sans home first. Afterward, Jian Chen took the bloody son and the mother back to the inn. Before they left, the woman noticed that the courtyard was littered with corpses, and caused her to be frightened out of her mind. Although she had seen people die before, there was far too many dead bodies here for her. The Yangji sect stood at the top of the Qiangan kingdom in strength, and so the woman couldn't help but worry. When Jian Chen left the fancy inn, the bloody figure of the youth attracted the attention of everyone. After they left, the waiter immediately ran off to the courtyard where the Yangji sect were. Upon seeing the dead bodies littering the courtyard, his face instantly paled before running off to notify the shop owner of the inn. Not too long after, a white-robed youth with an expensive-looking fan came running into the courtyard along with several bodyguards. This youth was the young master and the second son of the patriarch, meaning his identity was extremely well known and could stand on the same level of the prince of the kingdom. He had originally gone out with several bodyguards for a stroll and had coincidentally evaded the massacre. When the second son of the Yangji sect saw the bloody sight, his face instantly paled. After being told of what happened by the waiter, he immediately ran as fast as he could back to the Yangji sect without delay. Even the body of his third teacher was left back at the courtyard. The massacre of more than a dozen men from the Yangji sect was an enormous piece of information that could not be silenced. In a flash, the news had traveled throughout the entire city, even to the mercenary groups residing there. As they traveled, they spread the news even more, resulting in almost everyone knowing what had transpired. But Jian Chen was unaware to the news of the outside world. The only thing he cared about right now was the recovery of the son. Putting the son on the bed, he immediately took out a radiant spirit pill for the youth to eat. As soon as the pill was swallowed, the son's wounds began to heal at an accelerated rate. Although his wounds were heavy, the pill's quality was even higher, so the wounds began to heal right in front of their eyes. Not too long afterward, Sans recovered to consciousness. But he was still extremely weak. Despite the radiant spirit pill curing his wounds, his saint weapon had been shattered. This meant that without any saint force, recovering his strength would be a difficult thing to do in short amount of time. However, for the sake of his recovery, Jian Chen was not stingy with his radiant spirit pills and took out 2 more. With 3 pills used, the recovery rate of the youth was astonishingly fast, and had even driven away the weakness from having his saint weapon shattered. However, even after recovering, Sans was not happy. He was well aware of what had happened to his body. With his saint weapon gone, he had degenerated to become a cripple that would forever remain at the bottom of the Tianyuan continent. Jianchen understood his feelings and said to him, "Sans, please don't feel sad. Although you have lost your saint weapon, your future will be better than before. I will take your revenge and exact it on the Yangji sect for you. Benefactor, I cannot thank you enough for rescuing me, but the Yangji sect is far too strong. It is not worth offending them for my sake." Sans was quiet when he spoke, indicating his sadness. "My lord, I truly thank you for rescuing my Sans, but my child is correct. The Yangji sect is far too strong for you to offend." The shop owner said through her tears. She and her son were the commoners of society, and the Yangji sect left a strong impression on them. Neither one wished for Jianchen to come across any danger for them. Then, the shop owner spoke to her son, "Sans, we should leave this place and go to a faraway village to live our lives there. It would be better there than to live here in fear and poverty." Before Sans could reply, Jianchen beat him to it. "How could I let that happen? Auntie, Sans, come back with me to the Jessen kingdom. I will let you live a happy life without danger. The Yangji sect will not escape my ire. Sans' revenge will be enacted through me, otherwise, I would not be able to face Uncle Kendall." Upon hearing Jianchen's words, Sans immediately froze up, his sadness scattered away from his eyes. "Benefactor, you know my father?" Jianchen nodded his head. "Sans, I will tell you about your father later, but right now we should focus on your health." "I'm fine now, but I feel no energy in my body." Sans spoke feebly. "Sans, you should rest up for now. Tomorrow I will take revenge for you." The inn was closed for the next day as Jianchen stayed in it. He wanted to protect the mother and son, and to avoid having the pair ask him about Uncle Kendall's whereabouts, he invented an excuse to remain within his room without disturbance. Right now, Jianchen didn't know how to explain it to the both of them. How could he just say that Uncle Kendall had left this world? With Sans' terrible situation, Jianchen did not want to leave another wound on them both. Jianchen sighed. "If only I had known earlier, then I would have stayed silent about knowing Uncle Kendall." After some time, the city lord's mansion had many influential people gathered there to talk about the slaughter of the Yangji Set. For their city to have several men from a high-ranking sect was no small matter and was bad news for everyone involved with the city. "City lord, whoever dares fight against the Yangji sect is definitely not a minor character. A person of this nature is someone we cannot offend either. Since he was able to kill an Earth Saint Master with ease, his strength must be truly strong." "City Lord, I received news not too long ago that a Heaven Saint Master had arrived within our city. I believe that the person who killed the Yangji sect may be the very same person as that Heaven Saint Master." "What? A Heaven Saint Master? Dear heavens, this is not someone we can offend. City Lord, this is something we should best stay out of. Instead of participating, we should let the Yangji sect deal with it themselves." The influential people continued to talk for half the day before finally deciding to stay out of trouble. With their current position and the immensity of the ordeal, they did not wish to get involved. On the second day, Sans and the mother left the inn with new clothes. On the streets, Jianchen had not bothered to do anything as he used his wind element to wrap the mother and son. Taking them into the air, they flew toward the Yangji sect much to the shock of everyone around. The Yangji sect was not all that far away from the second-class city. It was only 500 kilometers to the mountain ranges where the Yangji sect was located. With an elevation of 5,000 meters, a swirl of clouds and mist covered the mountain peaks, so anyone who looked at it would feel a tinge of mystery. Chapter 428. Battle at the peak. The Yangji sect was extremely strong within the Qiangan kingdom. Their reputation could pressure even the royal family itself. They also had 2 Heaven Saint Masters, which was equal to the number the imperial palace had at any given time. Aside from the Heaven Saint Masters, they had at the very least 20 Earth Saint Masters and several thousand disciples. "Have you found out who killed your third teacher?" a middle-aged man asked. This child asked the waiter at the inn and several others. "The initial judgment is that the person who killed our men is a youth around the age of 20. As for his identity, I do not know." A youth replied. At this, The middle-aged man seemed to have thought of something and stared seriously at the youth in front of him. A 20-year-old youth. Fair, do you happen to know what his appearance is like? The middle-aged man's expression made everyone around him confused at what he had thought of in order for him to suddenly act like this. The youth wasn't stupid and had immediately noticed the change of expression. Looking down, he began to concentrate on his appearance. Father, this child hasn't seen this person, but the waiter said that the man was quite handsome and had very short hair around an inch long. Hair as long as an inch. The middle-aged man hummed as his face grew even more grim. So it's him. He matches the description given to us by the elders. I didn't think that after causing so much trouble at the palace, he would come to cause trouble with our Yangji sect. It would appear that he is from the Jessen kingdom. The middle-aged man stood up. Fair, you can go. I know who he is now. It is possible that our Yangji sect will be faced with danger. For the next 2 days, you should go hide yourself and wait for things to calm down. I must go warn the elder patriarch for now. Hearing this, the youth instantly blanched. He hadn't thought that the situation would be that dire. Cupping his hands, he spoke, Yes, father. Your son will leave now. As soon as the youth left, the middle-aged man looked around himself with a serious expression. Everyone, you should be well aware of this man now. Have everyone prepare themselves. No matter if he charges at our Yangji sect or not, we must work together to make preparations. News of Jianchen causing trouble at the Qiangan Kingdom's imperial palace had been completely suppressed, but because of the connections to the royal family, the Yangji sect had naturally found out. Thus, despite not seeing Jianchen, he was not a complete stranger to him and could guess who he was from his appearance. Yes, Patriarch. Everyone replied before setting outside. Afterward, the sect master of the Yangji sect left the mountains to report the matter to the elder patriarch. Chapter 429. Contest with a heaven-tier battle skill. Jianchen grabbed at empty sky and sent the flame sword at the sword chi coming at him. Upon contact, a shock wave was formed as the flame sword and sword chi cancelled each other out with an explosive explosion that scattered even the clouds overhead. The buildings within the Yangji sect were comprised mainly of wood, so they were susceptible to fire. The explosion sent fire everywhere and the buildings easily caught fire. In an instant, the buildings began to light up with fire as many disciples hurriedly tried to salvage the more precious items from the burning wreckage. Many others were desperately trying to combat the flames with water and slow down the spread. In an instant, Jianchen had caused the entire sect to go crazy. The mother and son looked at the battle with stunned expressions and gaping mouths from how the Yangji sect had reacted. Despite their shock, they couldn't help but feel some happiness at the panic the Yangji sect were feeling. At the same time, they couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. Because of their inability to take revenge, Jianchen had offended the entire Yangji sect for them. This made them both worried that Jianchen would come across trouble because of them. Mother, the Lord is extremely strong. Just who is he? San spoke with awe and a little fear. The mother could only shake her head with a blank expression. Your mother doesn't know either. However, our benefactor knows your father, and if he is willing to help us this much, their relationship must be a good one. Jianchen's eyes flashed brightly as he began to fly up several dozen meters. At the same time, 2 white-robed elders were quickly closing in before finally stopping 50 meters away. The elder patriarch of the Yangji sect looked at the burning buildings behind him with a dark expression before glaring sharply at Jianchen. Sire, just who are you? State your name. Jianchen returned the glare at the elder patriarch before turning to look at the grand elder with a spike of killing intent. I didn't think that I would see you here. You didn't run away far enough. A few days ago, I didn't lay claim to your life, but let's see you run away from this calamity now. Seeing how Jianchen just blatantly ignored him, the elder patriarch of the Yangji sect looked murderous. Hearing Jianchen's words, the Yangji sect's grand elder grew dark for a moment. Sire, I know all of the Heaven Saint Masters within this area by name or by face, but I have never seen or heard a person of your stature before. Just who are you, and why must you interfere with our war with the Jessen kingdom? Jianchen let out a sneer. I am a member of the Jessen kingdom, but the war is not why I am here. Your Yangji sect has destroyed the saint weapon of the son of my dear friend, rendering him a cripple. I would not be able to rest easily if revenge was not served. So the blood of the Yangji sect will serve as atonement. Jian Chen spoke before quickly shooting the two flame swords back at the two elders. Scattering the attacks with their own sword chi, the two elders watched as the flames moved to burn even more buildings instead of fading away. With a furious yell, the Grand Elder began to gather the water elements in the world and formed a giant sphere of water. Making a fist with his hand, the sphere instantly burst into a giant downpour that extinguished the fire. The water and fire canceled each other out with a crackling sound. The fire evaporated the water and transformed the water into steam that spread through the sky and covered everyone's vision. Jian Chen let out a cold smile as he spoke. It seems that even your water could only be evaporated by the fire. Fire began to swarm around Jian Chen once more as he continued to refuel the flames with an even stronger concentration. A bright pink ball 10 meters in diameter began to appear before growing progressively hotter and hotter. As if being roasted by the ball of flame, the temperature around it started to heat up as well. At Jian Chen's actions, the Yangji sect instantly knew what he was doing and grew panicked. Without any hesitation, the Elder Patriarch formed a blade made from his earth-attributed saint force and charged straight for Jian Chen in order to stop him. Jian Chen smiled before causing the ball of fire to suddenly explode with a single thought, sending a tremendous heat wave over the Yangji sect. At the same time, he formed the origin energy in his right hand and struck at the Elder Patriarch's saint weapon with it. As the two weapons clashed, the Elder Patriarch suddenly spat out blood and hastily retreated. Looking at his own saint weapon, there was a large gap in it. Seeing the hole in his saint weapon, the Elder Patriarch was terrified. Looking at Jian Chen, he sputtered, "What? Just how?" His eyes grew wide as if his heart had just been attacked. For opponents on the same level of strength, no matter how strong they were, they would never be able to destroy the other's saint weapon with such ease. By this point, the flames that came from the ball of fire covered the entire Yangji sect. Countless buildings caught fire, turning the place into an inferno. Plenty of disciples from the sect rolled on the ground in an attempt to extinguish the fire on them with howls of misery before quickly succumbing to them. This was no ordinary fire. It was fire that was made with the elements of the world, so those without enough strength would not be able to endure it for long. Those fortunate disciples that didn't get burned scattered throughout the area in an attempt to escape with their lives. Right now there was a clear danger to their lives where even stronger disciples had lost their lives. A danger like this meant that every disciple should try their best to run away from the ocean of fire. A Heaven Saint Master was terrifying in their capability to fight. Even the energy waves from their attacks could cause damage that even an Earth Saint Master would be shocked by. Hua! Before the fire could spread any farther through the sect, a large rain cloud began to rain on the fire. Sizzling sounds could be heard as the rain began to evaporate in an attempt to put out the flames. The Grand Elder floated above the air and continued to bring even more water down to combat the flames. The mother and son had long since retreated several meters. They were afraid of getting too close to the intense, scorching hot flames. Right now, they could only watch in utter shock at the sight in front of them. Was this really the invulnerable Yangji sect right in front of them? Seeing the rain get heavier and heavier, Jian Chen's eyes glinted darkly before moving away from the Elder Patriarch to fight the Grand Elder instead. Seeing Jian Chen charge toward the Grand Elder, the Elder Patriarch hurriedly cried out a warning. "Be careful, his sword has a strange energy to it, don't let it touch your saint weapon." Hearing the Elder Patriarch's warning, the Grand Elder's face shifted uncomfortably as he gathered the water elements in the world once more. A blue sword appeared in his hands. Trying to dodge the strike of origin energy, the Elder stabbed at Jian Chen's chest with the water sword. Jian Chen's origin energy-formed sword continued to clash with the water sword the Elder had made. Within 3 exchanges, Jian Chen managed to strike the Elder's saint weapon, causing him to cough out blood from the damage to his saint weapon. Just as Jian Chen was about to take the opportunity to end the Elder's life, an overwhelming amount of power suddenly descended from the sky and locked onto Jian Chen's body. Jian Chen could feel his entire body seemingly freeze in place, making mobility extremely difficult, like he was stuck in a quagmire. An intense amount of energy began to pour out from the Elder Patriarch from his perch in the sky. At this moment, the Elder Patriarch was like a war god that was descending from the heavens with his hair and clothes flying everywhere. His long sword was pointing straight up with an unbelievable amount of energy gathering at the tip, distorting the space around it. The sky began to darken as the winds began to pick up with a screeching wail. In an instant, the flames that were licking away at the buildings were blown out and the mist on top of the mountains disappeared without a trace. This is a heaven-tier battle skill. Jian Chen looked at the Elder Patriarch astonished. He hadn't thought that there would be a heaven-tier battle skill here. Even after seeing so many Heaven Saint Masters, not a single one of them had had a heaven-tier battle skill aside from Shao Tian and Ming Dong. Jian Chen's face grew grim. Even a heaven-tier battle skill was something he had to be careful of. Although he could easily kill a Heaven Saint Master, that was reliant on his origin energy. If he couldn't use it, killing a Heaven Saint Master would require a large sum of energy. A heaven-tier battle skill. Elder Yang, you really did have one. The Grand Elder looked at the Elder Patriarch in utter shock. After some time, the energy finally started to die down, but the Yangji sect did not look the same as it had before. The entire place was nearly barren now. The majority of the nearby buildings had been utterly demolished. Many of the disciples of the sect had even been tossed to and fro with serious damages to show for their pains. Some of the weaker men had even fallen off the sides of the mountains, making it difficult to see whether or not they had survived. The Elder Patriarch floated up above with a pale face from the exertion. The outcome of his sect was not of concern to him, only the enemy in front of him. When he looked down, an unbelievable sight greeted his eyes. Jian Chen could be seen floating up in midair with the origin energy blazing brightly in his right hand. The only difference to him from before the heaven-tier battle skill had struck was that he was slightly pale and his clothes were in tatters. There was also traces of blood coming from his nose and lips that trailed down his throat and to his chest. With his clothes in such a tattered state, the pale white flesh could be seen underneath. A heaven-tier battle skill was unbelievably strong, and even Jian Chen had to make use of his entire strength in order to block it. If it had been an earth-tier battle skill, even an advanced one would pose no threat to Jian Chen, but a heaven-tier battle skill was completely different compared to an earth-tier battle skill. With just an elemental sword to help him block, Jian Chen wouldn't be able to shrug it off so easily. Jian Chen had to use the origin energy from the sword spirits in order to help, but even then he had sustained some damage. You blocked my heaven-tier battle skill. The Yangji sect Elder Patriarch cried out in shock. He couldn't understand how that was possible. Despite it being only a primary heaven-tier battle skill, it was still a heaven-tier battle skill. He had long since mastered the basics to the skill and could cause devastating damage to even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master, so there should have been no way for Jian Chen to escape with just the damage he showed now. Jian Chen's eyes glowed brightly. I had no idea you would have a heaven-tier battle skill, but even with that, it changes nothing. Right after he spoke, Jian Chen's eyes grew even brighter as he charged toward the Elder Patriarch. The Elder Patriarch's strongest heaven-tier battle skill had been unable to kill Jian Chen, causing him to lose his will to fight. Immediately flying back, he attempted to run away from him. Elder Yang, I'm here to help. I doubt that a heaven-tier battle skill didn't cause as much damage as he shows. The Grand Elder cried out as he charged toward Jian Chen with his blue-colored saint weapon. The Elder Patriarch's eyes flashed with realization as he spoke. That's right. Even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master would be unable to defend my heaven-tier battle skill. When General Lu's eyes landed upon the two commoners, he saw them as nothing more than commoners of the lowest degree. They couldn't even look at him without shuddering in fear, causing General Lu to be confused on what connection they had to an imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom. The mother hadn't objected to Jian Chen's words and spoke, "If my benefactor commands so." Jian Chen let out a bitter smile. "What benefactor? Auntie, please call me Jian Chen." How could I do such a thing?" The mother was bewildered at such a request. Her entire life, she had been a commoner at the lowest rungs of society, but even she knew the proper etiquette of society. If even the high-ranking general in front of her had to call him as an honored imperial protector, the idea of her calling him by the name Jian Chen absolutely terrified her. Hearing Jian Chen's words, the general and the previous commander looked at each other in astonishment before looking back at the mother and son with a new expression. Even they hadn't known the name of the Qinhuang Kingdom's imperial protector. Seeing how the high and mighty imperial protector allowed for the mother and son to call him by name, they looked at the two in a different light. Even General Lu couldn't help but feel excited at this. Although he couldn't personally make a connection with the imperial protector head-on, he could do so through the mother and son. Being an imperial protector was an especially prestigious status. If any family or clan could be involved with the imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom, it would be of a great boon to them. Even an inferior clan could become an existence that no other clan would dare provoke overnight. Afterward, General Lu called for an officer to come. This officer was in fact another man of his family with the same background. Ordering him to treat the two like guests without any neglect, he then whispered several words to him discreetly. Afterward, the officer's face lit up into a smile before respectfully inviting the mother and son. The two were utterly confused at the officer's cordial reception and walked away with him helplessly. After all, they were dealing with an army officer. Next up, Jian Chen walked with the general into a soundproof room and began to talk about the information given to them by Xiao Tian, Kafir, and another Heaven Saint Master who had both flew to come here. Everyone began to report to him the information regarding the past 2 days. Honored Imperial Protector, yesterday morning, we've received intelligence from our northern and western strongholds. The Qiangan and Hidden Dragon Kingdom have withdrawn their armies and have sent envoys in hopes that we are open to negotiations. The general said. Hearing this, Jian Chen had a faint smile on his face. This piece of information was a good thing for the Jessan Kingdom. With 2 kingdoms retreating, the pressure would be significantly less. Then what of the southern stronghold? Jian Chen asked. Honored Imperial Protector, yesterday we've heard that the imperial advisors from the Qinhuang Kingdom have already reached the southern stronghold. Both sides were then brought into a giant battle where 2 of the Heaven Saint Masters from the Andreas Kingdom died. The rest were immediately injured and retreated, forcing the army to temporarily retreat. General Lu spoke with some excitement. The Jessan Kingdom was still alive for now. Jian Chen nodded in satisfaction. An outcome like this was within his expectations. With 5 imperial advisors gathered at the south, Chang Wuji and 2 other Heaven Saint Masters from the Jessan Kingdom, there was a total of 8 Heaven Saint Masters defending the southern stronghold. Unless there was some sort of unexpected development or the Andreas Kingdom dispatched all of their Heaven Saint Masters, the southern stronghold should be fine. Because of the military might of the Qinhuang Kingdom, they could hold off anyone the same level as them with their Heaven-tier battle skill. General, there is an important report. Suddenly, a loud voice called out from outside. Hearing this, the general looked grim as he barked, "Enter!" An armored commander came walking in as he bowed toward Jian Chen and the other 3 men. With a letter in his hand, he spoke, "General, the Blue Wind Kingdom have started to pull back their armies and sent a letter of surrender." General Lu's face lit up in joy as he began to read through the letter. Smiling widely, he laughed, "Wonderful! How absolutely wonderful! This letter was personally written by the King of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Not only have they pulled their armies from our borders, but they are willing to compensate for the damages they've incurred. Their envoys are on the way in hopes that negotiations can be made with our kingdom." Upon hearing this, the headmaster of the Kargath Academy and the other Heaven Saint Master let out a look of pure relief that could not be contained. By now, the eastern, western, and northern strongholds had been completely stabilized. Only the southern stronghold had the army of the Andreas Kingdom within their borders. However, no one was worried anymore. The southern stronghold had 8 Heaven Saint Masters, meaning the experts were literally as numerous as the clouds. The Andreas Kingdom simply had no chance of winning against the 8, so their surrender was only a matter of time now. As the 4 began to calm down, General Lu sat down, Honored Imperial Protector, your trip to the Qiangan Kingdom went smoothly, I take it. Jianchen nodded. You needn't worry about my trip to the Qiangan Kingdom, I've already solved the problem. Their kingdom has guaranteed that they will no longer act against the Jessen Kingdom. That's good, very good. This is all thanks to the honored Imperial Protector's tireless work. Our country truly thanks you and will remember your deeds for all eternity. General Lu spoke with gratitude. With that, Kafir and the other Heaven Saint Master spoke of their thanks as well before leaving. Jianchen took the white tiger cub with him and arrived at the inn where the mother and son were staying. Only the officer, General Lu had ordered to pamper the two, was around. On the table, there was a wide assortment of exotic foods with sweet-smelling fragrances that would make anyone hungry. Sitting upon the dragon throne, the king of the heavenly eagle kingdom gave a gentle sigh. Who would have thought that the Jessen kingdom would have become good enough friends with the Qinhuang kingdom that they were given several imperial advisors for assistance? How inconceivable! The king looked down to the two people kneeling in front of him. My son, Prime Minister Che, I've called you here today to give you an important mission. I want you to set out to the Jessen kingdom tomorrow with gifts for them. Ascertain the relationship between the Jessen kingdom and then the Qinhuang kingdom. Prime Minister Che, you should know what to do afterward. Your servant understands. The elder spoke. Good. The king muttered before speaking once more. The lands that the Jessen kingdom occupy are extremely fertile. Provided they are given time, they will sooner or later develop into a kingdom that is no weaker than our heavenly eagle kingdom. No matter what relationship they hold with the Qinhuang kingdom, it is worth our time to make friends with them to benefit us. I've heard that the king of the Jessen kingdom dotes upon the Princess Golan, who is rumored to be the most beautiful woman in the Jessen kingdom. She even has a talent for cultivation as well. My son, your priority is have her hand in marriage so that our two kingdoms will be tied together by marriage. Your son will follow father's order. With the Great War coming to a close, all of the Heaven Saint Masters protecting the strongholds were withdrawn as well. By the second day, Jianchen and the others planned to leave, but before they could do so, General Lu suddenly found them and said, Honored Imperial Protector, we hope that your group will be able to give us the honor of receiving you at the Imperial Palace. Without hesitation, Jianchen replied, I still have something important to do, Xiao Tian, you go in my stead. Yes, Imperial Protector. Xiao Tian bowed. There was a regretful look on the general's face, but he understood the meaning. It was beneath an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom to attend such a meeting, but having a regular imperial advisor was still more than enough face for the Jessen kingdom. Imperial protector, where should we go to find you afterward? Xiao Tian spoke. Go to Lore City, I will be heading there in a short moment. Jianchen spoke. Lore City. General Lu immediately made note to remember the name. After the exchange, Jianchen took both Shenfang and Sans away from the city and speed off into the distance toward Lore City. It was as if he had entered a whole new world where many years had passed. Jianchen had left the Changyang Manor many years ago as a result of the Hua Yun sect. Forced to hide his face, Jianchen had to leave the Jessen kingdom. When he was a young child, he never would have thought that he would have made the transformation to become a triumphant hero. Thus, everyone within the manor had just assumed that Changyang Xiangtian had come across some sort of misfortune. There was far too many dangers within the Tianyuan continent, with murder being commonplace. Even if one was in a well-protected city, many ill-mannered mercenaries would oftentimes still kill people. Without even a word, a fight could break out at any moment for any reason. A child that was only 15 years old would find it hard to survive by himself in such a harsh environment. The second sister's words made Bai Yuntian grieve even more. Her eyes began to well up with tears that slowly trailed down her face. Bai Yuntian's body began to shake uncontrollably as she sobbed, I have no idea where my Xianger is, nor if he will even return. After so long without any news, Bai Yuntian had been extremely worried about her only child. The second sister led Bai Yuntian to her bed and sighed, Fourth sister, don't be too hard on yourself. You and I both wish for the same thing. Mingyue's temper was too much. After her dissatisfaction over her engagement a year ago, she ran away in the middle of the night. Up to even now, I don't know where that silly daughter of mine has gone. As a single female drifter, I can't help but feel just as worried. Then there's eldest sister Ling Long. She must be more broken-hearted than the both of us. Ah, who had all 4 of his limbs cut off, making life extremely difficult for him. He can only be a cripple for the rest of his life. That must be unbearable for him. I can only hope that when Ahu wakes up, he will not decide to commit suicide. Outside of Lore City, an azure and violet light could be seen quickly descending toward the ground before disappearing within the forest. After several hours of traveling, Jianchen finally arrived with both Shenfang and Sans in Lore City. Jianchen slowly walked in between several trees as he looked at the nearby city walls. His expression was quite complex, but that was because right around here was the home of his family. Although several years had passed, Lore City was still the same as it always was. Even the ancient scars from time and past battles had remained where they were. Outside the city gates, plenty of people could be seen traveling in and out. Perhaps it was because of the war, but there was plenty of men heading into the city. There was only the elderly since all of the able-bodied men had already been recruited for the war effort. Jianchen looked at the close-by Lore City for a moment before walking with Shenfang and Sans to the city gates. Now that the war was all but over, Jianchen had been able to enter the city without any obstructions. After leaving Shenfang and Sans at an inn for the time being, Jianchen left almost impatiently for the Changyang Manor. Shortly after that, Jianchen arrived at the clan's manor. There wasn't any noticeable changes to the Changyang Manor from a few years back. The same red wall continued to circle the Changyang Manor with several trees planted around it. Their lush green leaves fell at random intervals, painting a beautiful scene. Jianchen walked toward the gates to the manor only to see it shut tight. Neither guards could be seen nor could any sounds could be heard. It was almost as if it was completely quiet in the world. Jianchen spread out his omnipresence to cover the insides of the manor so that he could see the scenery inside the manor in his mind. There were very few people to be seen inside. Only 50 soldiers could be seen scattered about with a decent amount of servants and maids scurrying about. In the past, there had been well over 1,000 people always busy within the manor, but now the manor was like a shrine. The elderly man that Jianchen had never been able to gauge the strength of before came into sight. Now, Jianchen was finally able to see his strength. He was a 4th cycle Earth Saint Master and currently the only one around. Walking up to the gates, Jianchen's hand knocked against the doors with a loud reverberating sound. Not too long after, the heavy gates began to open as an ordinary-looking middle-aged man could be seen. Looking at Jianchen with suspicion, he spoke, "Youngster, who are you?" Although he could not be considered courteous, his tone still retained some manners. Jianchen said nothing and instead pressed against the gates with a little more force. As a result, the heavy doors swung open, revealing the giant courtyards behind it. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man's face grew a little accusatory and his voice even attracted the attention of a nearby squadron. Jianchen tilted his head up high and spoke to the man. "Do you remember the 4th master of the Changyang clan, Changyang Xiangtian?" Absolutely no emotion could be detected upon his face. "What 4th master? What Changyang Xiangtian? Youngster, you are spewing rubbish. State your name immediately." The man's eyes immediately hardened into a terrifying glare. At this moment, the squadron arrived by the gates. There were 10 people in total, and aside from 3 middle-aged men, there was another 30-year-old youth. When those 3 soldiers heard the name, Changyang Xiangtian, their faces immediately registered shock before quickly running forward. Intensely staring at Jianchen, one of them spoke with impatience, "Who are you? Have you seen the 4th master, Changyang Xiangtian?" Those 3 soldiers had been soldiers for the Changyang clan for a decent amount of time. They had once seen Changyang Xiangtian before and had been involved in the search for him. Thus, when they heard the name, they were instantly familiar with the name. Jianchen remained silent and looked at the 3 soldiers that were eyeing him. He didn't recognize a single one of them, but in truth, with so many soldiers, it was impossible for him to recognize every single one of them. The three soldiers couldn't help but intently scrutinize Jian Chen's face. Then, one of them immediately came to a realization and cried out, "You look exactly like the fourth master." "You're the fourth master, Chengyang Xiangtian." Hearing this, the other two soldiers blanched with shock. Looking closer at Jian Chen, they were able to recognize the familiar characteristics to his face despite the years of aging. This youth in front of him was their fourth master, Chengyang Xiangtian. The man who had opened the gates could only look at Jian Chen skeptically. He hadn't been at the Chengyang Manor for long and had never heard of such a name before. Jian Chen felt a stab of pain in his heart. He had left the manor several years ago and had thought that the entire clan would have forgotten about him. What he didn't think was that some of the guards would still remember him. Chengyang Ba stepped off his Class 4 magical beast mount and tidied up his messy clothes for a moment before striding to the gates. Right behind him, every rider started to dismount as well to follow him inside quietly and obediently. As soon as he entered the gates, one of the servants came rushing over with a joyful expression. With a bow, he said, "Clan leader, good news. The fourth master has returned." Chapter 437. Family Dispute. By Yun Tian could only smile at Yu Fengyang's words. When it came to her child, she loved him dearly. Bai Yushuang looked at Jian Chen with furrowed eyes. "Xiangtian, just what reason did you come back? The Hua Yun sect isn't someone our Changyang clan can go against. Just what trouble are you trying to give us?" Yu Fengyan and Bai Yun Tian were both shocked by Bai Yushuang's words. She essentially objected to Jian Chen's return almost as if she never wanted him to return at all. The third aunt's words caused Jian Chen to feel slightly angry, but before he could say anything, Yu Fengyan beat him to it. "Third sister, your words are completely unnecessary. Although the Hua Yun sect is indeed very strong, our Changyang clan is not an easy target to bully. We have Chang Bai with us. You must know of the fact that he was able to kill many Heaven Saint Masters at the northern stronghold. As long as Chang Bai is here, the Hua Yun sect will not have an easy time moving against us." Xiangtian forced to leave his home, and for the past few years had endured much suffering in the outside world. Now that Xiangtian has returned, we should be happy, not throwing cold words at him. Bai Yushuang gave a cold snort before speaking ominously. "Xiangtian has never been an obedient child and always enjoyed causing trouble. A few years ago, he hurt my Kur, and later caused trouble with the Hua Yun sect despite only being there for a short amount of time. Now that he has returned, who knows what other trouble he has brought with him." Yu Fengyan and Bai Yun Tian both looked speechless. They never would have thought that Bai Yushuang thought that way about Jian Chen. Jian Chen was a little angry at this. His eyes began to shine dangerously with a sharp light, making Bai Yushuang a little afraid to look at him. "Third aunt, I know that you object to my being here, but you needn't trouble yourself with my concerns. Whatever trouble I cause, I will naturally absolve them so that they will not burden the clan." Jian Chen spoke. "With just you?" Bai Yushuang gave a look of loathing before speaking eccentrically. "Fine then. You can show us just what you've learned from the outside world. Let's see you resolve the matter with the Hua Yun sect. Do not let the clan suffer for your troubles. The debt the Hua Yun sect has with me will naturally be returned." Jian Chen spoke emotionlessly. Jian Chen's words were brassy and arrogant in the eyes of Bai Yushuang, infuriating her. Mockingly, she spat out, "Xiangtian, this is not me belittling you, but the words of truth. Think about how strong the Hua Yun sect is. Have you forgotten about them so quickly? Going against the Hua Yun sect by yourself? Even imbeciles can dream, I suppose." Jian Chen's head tilted with a dangerous gleam in his eyes. He had truly been angered by Bai Yushuang's words, but in the end, she was still his aunt and elder. Jian Chen had no wish to have any ill will with any of his family members. Since he truly cherished his entire family as a whole, he kept his mouth shut. His status was far different than what it was several years ago. Not only was he stronger than any Heaven Saint Master, he was also the imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom. With such a status, a trifling matter like this wasn't worth splitting hairs over, but Bai Yushuang's words and attitude was burned into Jian Chen's memory. "Third sister, You're older than this, there is no need to cause such difficulty toward a child. Yu Fengyan's eyes narrowed with anger. What difficulty? My words are completely true. Bai Yushuang squinted to look at Yu Fengyan without conceding her point at all. Yu Fengyan began to grow even angrier, her chest began to swell with fury as she looked at Bai Yushuang. Third sister. Second aunt, there's no need for this. Jian Chen interrupted before giving a cold stare to Bai Yushuang. The stare caused Bai Yushuang to feel a little timid and instantly looked away from him. Third aunt, I respect you as my aunt and elder, so I will not dwell on your words. But in the future, I hope you do not regret your words today. Jian Chen suddenly spoke. Ah? Take a look, everyone, look. He dares threaten me. Bai Yushuang immediately seized an opportunity to speak against Jian Chen even more. With her hands at her waist, she pressed on. Regret? What will I regret? Changyang Xiangtian, are you going to use your own hands to teach your third aunt a lesson? Everyone look closely. See how this child talks, how he doesn't respect his elders. His delusional words, just how outrageous is he? Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian's face hardened with anger. At that moment, a strong and firm voice could suddenly be heard. How lively it is today, everyone seems happy. A simply dressed Changyang Ba could be seen walking into the hall with a cheerful smile, indicating just how happy he was. Changyang Ba was a 40-year-old middle-aged man with the facial appearance of a 30-year-old. Despite his age, he still had the handsome appearance from his earlier youth, and his presence had a unique air to him. My husband. Father. Everyone immediately spoke at his appearance. Changyang Ba was extremely happy today. The moment he walked in, his eyes had immediately landed upon the figure of his fourth child, Xiangtian. Looking closely, the smile on his face only grew even wider, since in his eyes, his fourth child was not only handsome, but a man that was not to be trifled with. Truly, Changyang Ba thought him to be a dragon among men and someone that would seize the opportunity to win at any moment. This combination of factors left Changyang Ba extremely happy, and he laughed out loud. This laughter expressed just how joyous he felt. With such an emotion, what more could a father want? After calming down, Changyang Ba sat beside Jian Chen. Xiang'e, you must have felt wronged after all these years. Jian Chen immediately felt warm at his father's words and replied, not even a little. Your child has learned many things from the outside world. Good. Very good. Xiang'e is a true scholar. Changyang Ba could only use those words to describe just how happy he was with Jian Chen. Seeing just how calm, well-tempered and handsome Jian Chen was, he couldn't feel any more gratified. He knew that his youngest child had truly grown up. Seeing how Changyang Ba was treating Jian Chen, the nearby Bai Yushuang looked extremely unhappy. Since Changyang Ba was concentrating on Jian Chen, he naturally missed Bai Yushuang's face. AI. Turning around, Changyang Ba suddenly remembered something painful, and the joy faded away from his face, only for a pain-filled expression to replace it. Unfortunately, at his words, Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian both sighed as well, feeling for Changyang Hu's disaster. Jian Chen immediately thought to his elder brother Changyang Hu and instantly felt sad. Father, your child wishes to see eldest brother. Changyang Ba shook his head slightly without saying a word. Jian Chen could understand that his father was in deep pain. How could he not? Jian Chen and Changyang Hu were extremely good friends, but now that Changyang Hu was in such a serious state, Jian Chen couldn't help but feel pained as well. Father, your child knows what has happened to eldest brother. Please don't worry, he will recover, he will definitely be healed. Jian Chen spoke. Changyang Ba shook his head once more and sighed. It is easier said than done. To regrow his limbs, it would require a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Within the Tianyuan continent, not only are they exceedingly rare and hard to find, but we do not have any power to invite one even if we found one. A person like that is a person in a world different from ours. Jian Chen knew just how esteemed a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was. They were an existence that was as high as a Saint Ruler. Radiant Saint Masters were rare, and it was also hard for them to advance in rank. They were not like their fighting counterparts, and so a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was an extremely high-class existence. Father, your child wishes to see eldest brother. Jian Chen stated once more. Fine then. Chang Yongba finally agreed. Without eating, he immediately walked to where Chang Yong, who was with Jian Chen and the other 3 ants. Jian Chen walked behind Chang Yongba into the room. Right now, Chang Yong, who was motionless on his bed, staring silently at the ceiling above him. On his motionless body, 4 bloodied bandages could be seen wrapped around his limbs. Chang Yong, whose mother Ling Long sat dejectedly by his side. Her hair was a mess and her face sallow.